Hola,
Bonjour,
ni hao,
moi,
buongiorno,
guten Tag.
konnichiwa, whatever way you want to say it. Hello and welcome to the Double Trouble podcast with me, Oliver Phelps.
And me, James Phelps. And thank you very much for joining us this week. Episode 9, I think we're on now. So, again, thank you very much for joining us. For those wondering, I'm not in old New York City. I'm actually being banished to one of the spare rooms to record today in a very, very hot England.
It is very, very hot, and James is trying to go back into a time machine by the look of his moustache and haircut at the moment, back to, say, 1971-ish, something like that.
As some of you, maybe you were watching, maybe aware, I decided to cut my beard off last week, and now I have left it a bit of a moustache to go on. But what we actually said, well, Oliver and I agreed on, you may have seen on his Instagram earlier in the week. Last week we talked about shaving it for charity, but then when we talked about it a bit more after, a lot of charities at the moment need money, need help. All charities around the world, especially the smaller ones. So if you're able to, please donate to any charity that means something to you. That would mean a lot. If you can, if you can't, that's fine. If you can't, hey, just say something nice to a complete stranger and hopefully make their day as well. And for those who are listening and probably don't know what I'm on about with what's left on my face, I actually have a mustache, so I've been called. I look like I'm in the Eagles, the Sundance Kid, which I quite enjoyed, but most notably Ned Flanders.
Oakley dokley. But yes, so let's move on to who we've got this week or who we've been talking to this week. So, as I say, I got thinking about, as James just said, about the charity side of it. And I thought, who do I know who's got an interesting story? Now, unfortunately, James and I are fortunate enough to be involved with quite a few different charities, but this one is with an actor called Ben Leland, who I did my first ever stage tour with. And Ben has been doing stage shows for 10, 12 years. And before that, he was on TV. But in that time, he also set up a charity called Pump Aid. So we'll be learning a bit more about that and the amazing work that they've been doing in Moali.
Yeah, Ben is an amazing actor. So in the 90s in the UK and around the world, there was a huge TV show called Soldier Soldier, which Ben was in. And it was whilst filming that in Africa, he actually came across all the situations with the lack of supply to fresh water to a lot of locals there. So Pump Aid was helped set up to create pumps, putting fresh water to all these communities. And he actually talks about it when we speak to him, but the main aim of the charity is to essentially not exist anymore eventually, because they won't need to, because fresh water will be there readily available for all the locals. So we look forward to you guys learning more about that as well.
Exactly. But in the meantime, James, what have you been up to this past week?
So this past week, obviously, I've had a nice little shave, which felt good. I did my PB 5K this morning, which was good. So that was enjoyable. And apart from that, I've just been enjoying being at home. How about you?
Very good, very good.
Golf, I
Yes,
assume?
golfing, of course, going out in my Morgan, enjoying certainly this week in England, it's been blistering hot, which is very, very welcome. So, yes, been enjoying that. Decided to put together I bought I bought a garden set of furniture and then sat down on it the other day, and it turns out it's got a bit of a crack in it. And do you think you can get on the phone with anyone to send it back? So, other than that, and my boring rants about that, life's been good. Life's been good.
Yes, a big boring rant with Oliver. Also, guys, thank you so much for all your input for the episode last week with the Q&A. Sorry we couldn't do as many as we hoped for time-wise, but equally, we really enjoyed it. And thank you again for all the responses as well. It's nice to see that quite a few of you enjoy our little ramblings every so often. But today, again, with Ben, we've got a really great chat. And it's always good to talk to other actors about their methods and how they go about learning. So we actually asked Ben about main question we're normally asked is, how do you learn your lines? So that's a question I put to Ben as well. So listen out for that one. But could
Did
I give
you
my...
see, James? No, I just want to get this before you get this. Did you know?
Oh, you
Did
nicked
you
it. Yes,
see? Did you see this week? I know if you also asking, did you see Jupiter this week?
I did see Jupiter this week, yes.
Did you see the news about Jupiter this week?
What's that?
Well, scientists predict that due to the that there is a sorry, let me try and find it. You tell us your did you know this week, James, and I'll find out this did you see.
Okay, can we play the jingle again? Because I really like the jingle.
We can do.
And now it's time for Did You Know with James? Did you know with James?
Thank you very much for the amazing jingle. Okay, so my Did You Know this week is about at this time of year, a couple of days ago, it was midsummer, right? So, did you know midsummer has been celebrated for thousands of years? In fact, in ancient Roman times, the 24th of June in the Julian calendar was the date of the summer solstice. Also, midsummer came from that because it's the same thing, right? Also, did you know, believe it or not, the word midsummer does not occur at all in Shakespeare's A Midsummer's Night Dream.
Really?
But, yeah, it appears obviously in the title, but not anywhere else. But it does appear in Twelfth Night and Henry the Fourth, Part 1.
So you had it on the brain then. Good old Bill.
He had it on the brain, but it's a good little swerve, isn't it? I bet you would have thought, I wonder what this is, obviously what it's about, but they actually talk about it.
Yeah. Well, that's a very good did you know. I didn't know that. Well, did you see the scientists say that it is possible that there is life on Jupiter's moon, Europa?
Oh, that's the moon, Europa, yes.
Yeah, well, we established earlier in this series from your vast space, newly acquired knowledge that Jupiter actually is made up mostly of it doesn't have a surface, did you say?
Well, I've never been there.
Well, I know that it's really hot in one part. What's just called something like Darrell's Storm or something like that.
The big red spot.
The big red dot. That was it. The big red dot, which is just a big spot. The big red spot. Yes, very interesting times here. But anyway, yes. So apparently on Europa,
there's over 70. Well, yeah, there's over 70 moons, but Europa is one of the main ones that you think of that they think could involve life. In fact, if you look through a telescope, you can see the moons of Jupiter. It looks like a flare on the lens, but actually they're its moons lined up.
Wow. So, but the thing is, what I haven't been able to read is when they say there's life there, and everyone says, I think everyone assumes that aliens are this super duper intelligent life form. But what if they're actually just like beetles there?
Fish.
Yeah. But not even like big fish, like tiny little fish what you get in like a lagoon or something like that. That's still your aliens. It is, but I don't think they're going to be abducting anyone anytime soon.
Who says that they would want to abduct people anyway?
Well, no, but that's the common thought process, isn't it? For an alien, always a UFO. Watch out! I bet they've just nicked a cow from a field, and now they've just written some random drawings in the middle of a crop field, and now they've taken me onto their spaceship. Yeah, maybe it's just some little tow rag.
Do you think they're those aliens that do that? They're like the juvenile ones who go joyriding in their parents' spaceship, turn up, do a bit of graffiti, cow tip, and fly home.
Maybe.
There you go.
Maybe they do. Maybe they do. Yeah. Anyway, did you know that's a new term for extraterrestrial life forms this week? Cow tipping. Good or bad? Send us your answers. Usual place.
What's the question?
Well, do you think that cow? I'll tell you what. Here's what I'll do. On my Instagram on Monday, I will do a vote. Is cow tipping a good thing or a bad thing?
I'm going to say bad thing.
Well, I'm going to say bad thing. But what if you're an extraterrestrial?
Well, how many extraterrestrials have Instagram?
Well, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. It's called like intergalactical gram, apparently.
Okay.
When they say, yeah, I've posted it on IG, they actually mean that, not Instagram.
But that's probably still owned by Facebook, I guess. Anyway, we're drifting here.
Do fish have faces?
What are you on about?
Well, you said aliens were fish earlier on.
Yeah. I didn't say, no, I said they may be.
It would be called Fishbook, wouldn't it? It wouldn't be called Facebook.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
Let's move on. And how do the fish...
The statuses would be boring, wouldn't it? They keep repeating themselves
You're
every 5
bobbing here.
seconds.
You're bobbing here. Look at that castle.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Anyway.
Let's crack on. So, Oliver, you said that you worked with Ben on your tour a few years ago now. Really great actor, really top guy as well. So, Take it away.
Cool. Well, Ben, thank you so much for joining us today on our Double Trouble podcast in a very warm, summery feeling England right now.
Yeah, well, thank you for inviting me. It's great. It's great. I think the last time we spoke, I mentioned that you were the last person I saw before lockdown. So
Yes.
it is great to kind of see you again and see how much your hair has grown compared to mine.
Well, mine's come up. I've just watched it, to be honest with you, because my wife keeps saying that I look like a member of the Beatles. But looking at James today, he's looking more like somebody from the Eagles or George Harrison on the White Album. Maybe, I'm not too sure.
Yeah, definitely. White Album or Sergeant Pepper, definitely.
But as I say, so Ben, how's everything been with the? Well, as you say, the last time we saw each other was probably the last time in terms of social interaction. The days of going to a Thai resturant seem many miles away now.
Right.
So it just seems to be.
That was the last time I went to a restaurant as well.
I think it'd be mine too, actually. Yeah, it'd be mine too. But so how's everything been readjusting to life at home and stuff?
Well, it's weird. I mean, you know, as you know from the experience that we had when we did the tour together, the weirdest thing about touring as an actor is you're away from your home for so long, and I've been doing these kind of touring shows now for 10 or 12 years. So the really lovely thing about lockdown for us is that the whole family are back together again, and our daughter is she's coming up for her second birthday next month in July. So this is the first time I've been at home since she was born, and I stayed at home for 4 or 5 months, and then I went back to work. So to have these kind of 3 or 4 months with her now, kind of 2 years later, is fantastic. And Amy is absolutely thrilled because she's not having to do everything on her own. So it's been a kind of 3 months of just being at home, which is very strange for me. I find it quite odd being at home because I'm so used to being away. So and we've got to know everyone in the village a lot better, and we walk around into the countryside. And up here in Norfolk, nothing has changed much. We don't really see. You know, the village is pretty quiet anyway, so we're quite cut off from modern day living. And there's a guy who plays guitar. When they were doing the NHS claps, he went out in front of his house, plugged in his electric guitar, and would play a few tunes at 8:00 every Thursday night. And all we were worried about is would it wake all her up. But thankfully, that's all that we were worried about. But other than that, no, it's been great. And we've done a lot of DIY and a lot of cleaning. And although it might not look like it from the view in the background, so
have you been banished to the roof or somewhere?
I am. I've been banished to the attic, so I stay up here with some of my friends that I met along my travels around kind of India, Cambodia, and Africa, the places I've been lucky enough to work. So all is asleep downstairs in the living room. So Amy sent me upstairs while she was burning the scones.
Brilliant. We can always edit out the burning the scones bit if you want.
That was my fault because I had to come up here and she was trying to rock Ola back to sleep again.
Oh dear,
so I got a text message just before we started saying I've overbaked the scones, so it's all my fault. When we finish this, I've got to go down and try and make it up to everybody.
Yeah, good. Well, I thought as well, like Ben, as you say, obviously you've been a touring actor for over a decade. So what in terms of, I thought we could talk about that a little bit if you can, because we were the one tour I did was with you, and that was, for me, that was a complete learning curve, and my only regret is that I didn't do it many years before, because it was really nice to be able to go to not just different parts of the country, and the weather at the time was throughout the summer, so it was great out on the beaches,
like it is now, isn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was just like it is now, really warm. But it was just nice to. It was interesting. I found, like, for people listening in America, they may find this a bit strange, but I found the difference in the audience within just an hour or two's drive was chalk and cheese. Like it was amazing. Like there'd be some parts of the show that we'd do, and it would get a laugh in. Like say, I found the more north you go in the country, the easier the crowd was.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that a normal rule of thumb?
Yeah, I think it's weird. I think audiences further to the north and in Scotland and in Ireland particularly tend to, and I think that the matinee audiences, the older audiences, I think we found that as well when we were touring, they tend to go to the theatre, have a lot more fun. Whereas down to the south, maybe things are taken a little bit more seriously, and you know, the caliber of the work that we were doing, it was a kind of mix between, it was slightly tongue-in-cheek, and there was definitely, well, depending on who you were on stage with at the time, but there was a lot of possibility for kind of laughter and you know, not taking things too seriously. And I think the further, like, you're absolutely right, the further north you go, the more people enter into just going there to have fun, and the audiences realise that they are part of the show as well. It's not about them and us, like the you know, us guys being up on stage delivering a performance for them. It very much relies on the people that have come to see the show. So some of the best nights or afternoons that you have in the theatre are because of the audience have absolutely gone with it, and there's a crest of a wave that you kind of surf along with them, and those two things come together, and those, I think, the most enjoyable times are when that happens. And then there'll be other times when, you know, the audience just don't get it, or the cast aren't quite on it, or things aren't quite right, and you just think, oh my God, this is the worst thing I've ever been involved in. And then the next week, I remember doing a show in Dublin, and we got a standing ovation on the Saturday night, and then in Bromley the next week on the Monday, we didn't get a single laugh, and it was as if we were doing a completely different play. And the only difference was two different types of theatres. One theatre was quite modern and a bit soulless. Another one was wonderfully kind of Victorian and full of, you know, an Irish audience who were just up for a real laugh. And it's extraordinary. And then there'll be times when you go to Bromley and the reaction will be amazing, and then you go back to Dublin the next week and there's nothing, and you don't know what it is. But yeah, and that's the excitement about doing it live, is every night you step out onto that stage, you have no idea what's going to happen. So whatever's happened the night before, or even that afternoon, you can't predict it's going to be the same that next time. So you have to start all over again, and you've got to remember, you've got to tell that story for the first time, as if, because those people in the audience, although some of them may well be coming back for a second or third time, a lot of them won't know it at all, and you have to make sure you're telling that story to them for the first time. So that's what's so exciting about live theatre as opposed to anything that's recorded, and why it's so frustrating at the moment not to be doing anything, although there's so much recorded stuff, recorded theatre shows that have been shown online or on television. Nothing's the same as going there live. It's like watching a gig, you know, like your favourite band on television in a live gig. It doesn't compare to being there with them at the same time. It's just a completely different experience.
Definitely. I'm fascinated when you say that it's different throughout different towns, and obviously it all depends on the audience in general. Is there, would you say then that, do you put it down to a lot of the audiences, especially in the south of England, especially around London, a lot of the more traditional theatre goers are more, you entertain me, whereas everywhere, other places, it's very much, we're here all to have a good, like you say, a bit like a gig in regards, everyone will go and have a sing-along with a music.
Sometimes it feels a bit like that. Sometimes you feel that in the south, of course, there's a hell of a lot more theatres. So, and you get a lot of theatres where the patrons of the theatre will buy tickets to see every single show in the season. And your show might not be their cup of tea, but they'll go and see it anyway. So you're fighting harder to kind of impress them. Whereas I think when you go out to the provinces and play the provinces, people are much more, they will only buy tickets to see a show if they want to see it. So that helps. And there is sometimes, there's a sense with some places that you go to, they might not see as much drama as you would say in London or some of the bigger cities. So the fact that you're coming to do a dramatic play in a theatre that normally only does musicals or comedy, then you get a much more supportive audience, because they're like, oh, this is something a bit new. Whereas if we did the same show in London at one of the bigger theatres there, they might go, well, you know, we've seen, either they've seen this production done by several other people maybe 10 years ago, or, you know, they're going to see Ian McKellen in I don't know, a Beckett play the next week, so they're not going to be particularly impressed by a murder mystery that we might be offering them. So it is very different. But it's, I mean, I you know, I'm sure like Ollie said, the most exciting thing is just going to different theatres, different audiences, and the different reactions, and enjoying the newness of it every single time you get on stage. It's not saying that one audience is better than another. It's just it can be a very different experience. One audience will be much more concentrated, much more audience will, one audience there might be a hen party in there, which you wouldn't necessarily get in some venues, but other venues you do. Like, especially when Ollie was in the show, that we had lots of hen
Well, it wasn't quite Tom Jones and pants being thrown, but no, we were. I mean, it made me laugh though. Like when we were at the one venue, and somebody had come to. She was obviously a Potts fan and had come along, and I gave a line which was not funny in the slightest. It was almost basically like, "So who killed him?" It was something very much like that. And you just hear this line, which is amplified even more so because no one's expecting it. And then, as you say, the best thing about doing it live is that you've got that adaptation. Right?
Was that Litchfield?
No, that was. Where would that have been? No, I didn't play Litchfield.
Did you not? Oh, right. Of course.
No.
Yeah, because when we played, when you came to see the show this year, I think it was on the night that you came to see us. We had a woman who, it was on the first night in Litchfield. We had a woman who did that all through the show on every single line. She laughed. And we were thinking, okay, that's not funny, but okay. So I'm wondering if it's the same woman. Maybe she's expecting you to be there.
No, it wasn't. It was. I can't remember where it was now. It was one of them, but it was brilliant. I thought going to the different theatres and then seeing, especially like the Grand in Leeds.
Oh, beautiful!
This huge ironwork inside. But I remember they found this old guest book, which they asked everyone to sign for each production, and then going through it, there was like Morecambe and Wise, Laurel and Hardy, and people like that. Yeah, Charlie Chaplin and people like that had signed this book. Yeah, and that was. To me, that was so inspiring because you think, okay, you're treading the same boards without sounding too theatrical as these legends of it. It was, to me, that was almost you almost forget why you're there.
Yeah, and I think in older theatres, you do get, and you see all the old playbills on the walls and the photographs of people who've worked there, and you do feel part of that because you're playing, and those theatres are set up so beautifully, the Victorian theatres, for the kind of plays that we were doing and the plays that I've been doing the last 10 years, the murder mysteries, and the acoustically and the feel of the theatre very much reflect the kind of play that you're doing, and it feels all part of one thing, and it's and that you do feel it all kind of seeping through the walls and in every seat that you sit in. It's great to be part of that. Because
James actually did live theatre before I did.
Right.
What was that in, James?
I love how you're saying it like, did he? Yes, I did. I literally, it's something I've always wanted to do, and I didn't realise I would enjoy it as much. I know that you always hear actors who have done theatre say that they prefer it to film. And I never really grasped the reason why until I did it. And I think it was, I've been very lucky with the jobs I've done. I've enjoyed them. And I think that what I enjoyed the most was that I was fully prepared.
Yeah.
And you know the story completely inside out. Whereas if you do a film or TV, you pretty much can just get away with just knowing your own stuff. But
sometimes sure when you know a page of script just before you start the scene, and you're thinking, I've never seen this before. What? And you've got to learn it. And and the idea of rehearsal on film, more. I think you get more rehearsal time on film, but television, more often than not, you might get one rehearsal and then you do it. Whereas that lovely thing of theatre, you get 3 or 4 weeks to create a character and work together to get to know everyone you're working with, and that trust. And like you say, to know the story inside out. And then that first time you take it in front of an audience, you learn your level of understanding kind of goes up even further, because you're, like Ollie was saying, that there are lines that you say that you never thought would get a laugh that do get a laugh, or there are moments when you feel the audience are really concentrating, sometimes when they're not, and that's really exciting as well, because it tells you more about the play and your own performance as well.
Definitely. Do you find as well, if you've got a monologue or at least a long part of dialogue to give, after a while, when it's all very natural and you know it inside out, do you find yourself listening to the audience while you're still speaking, if that makes sense? Like you can gauge the reaction and what's going on?
It's really dangerous, because you can, and I think the joy of touring theatre is you get to do a show maybe 200 or 300 times.
Yeah.
So the danger is always that you get so used to doing it that you stop thinking about what you're doing. But I think what I said before about every night you've got to start all over again is the most important thing, because you'll be doing it, and if you're not absolutely concentrated in the moment, then something will happen and it can throw you completely, because you're not listening. So you're not listening to. I remember, there'd be great things like me and Ollie would do a scene together, and Ollie would do something completely different from what he had done before. And if I wasn't listening,
Well, you mean like say the wrong words?
Yeah, exactly. Then I wouldn't be able to react. Like say it in Greek rather than Italian.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it.
So it's but you're absolutely right, James. It's really, you do get to that point where you realise that you're saying the lines, you're in the play, but at the same time you're listening to the audience. But there's also a part of you going, I wonder what the Arsenal score is. And you try.
I remember, Ben, we were doing a scene. We were doing one night, and England were in the semi-final of the World Cup.
Oh, God, yeah.
And there was probably a man and his dog in the audience.
Yeah, in Swansea.
No, we were in Brighton.
Oh, we'd moved to Brighton by that time, right?
The quarter-final was against Colombia. And I remember watching the penalty shootouts just before the curtain went up.
That's right, yeah.
So you've got all that going on as well, which I suppose as an audience member, you don't really take that into account, that the performers are actually got other things going on, be it a sports score, be it, I don't know, something to do with another line of work or another family opportunity, stuff like that. Because there was always the risk when we were when we were touring, is that we kind of perceived that one of the weeks you were going to have to go because of Orla being born. So there's always that as well going on. Like,
I never knew. In Leeds, every night before I went on, I'd have my phone right next to me until the last minute. And if Amy called, then my understudy, Owen, would be going on in front, because it was always the agreement that as soon as I got the call, I'd just leave. But unless we'd started the show. And so I think on that last weekend in Leeds, it was really close, because Orla was born on the following Monday. But on the Saturday, a couple of things happened, which meant that she was very close to kind of being born, and it was touch and go as whether I would do the shows or not. So, but then there is that weird thing where you've got to put that in a box and put that all to one side, because I remember when I was in youth theatre back in, I did miss my own funeral. I missed going on stage for my funeral in a play because David Platt was scoring the winner for England against Belgium. So thankfully it was only youth theatre, but I've never made that mistake again. Now that's why I won't watch football or listen to football if I can help it during a play, because my concentration just won't be there. So you have to put it all in a box, put it into the dressing room, and then just let it go until the play's finished, and it's the interval and come back on. But no, I'll never forget. I was watching the football, and then I heard this music. Went, oh, that's the music for my feet. Oh my God! And I arrived there just as 6 people were walking on stage, pretending to carry me on.
Yeah, I did. To be honest, I did. I remember doing the same thing. I was just talking at the side of the stage on one of the scenes, and then suddenly realised. And then someone said, "Oh, you're supposed to be in that one." And he's not, normally I'd come in from the other entrance, so I just went on through the closest one to me. But as I did, I tripped, and then still managed to catch myself and went and stood in my positioning, hoping to God that the set wasn't about to fall down behind me because of what I just gone through. And then I assume that by then it's just so much muscle memory that you can just say what's in there, I think. Yeah. But the whole time I'm just thinking, please don't kill everyone on stage with me. Please just stay up. For everyone watching on YouTube, hi Cara, how are you?
Hello, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Hi Cara.
Very, very well,
Hello.
thank you. So for everyone watching and now listening, wondering who this new voice is, Cara works at a charity called Pump Aid, which Ben was one of the main founders of, Ben?
I helped to found it, in 1998, which was before anybody that's watching this was born. I was filming a TV series called Soldier in Zimbabwe, and I met 3 teachers there, Ian, Amos and Tendai, who'd kind of built a new kind of pump for the school where they were working, because one of the teachers and 3 of the children had died drinking infected water. and we started talking about, it seemed like a really good intervention, and could we do something with it? And 22 years later, we're still working on it, and we've built up an organisation that has worked in Zimbabwe, Liberia, and now works in Malawi. And in this time when I can't do any acting, I've gone back to helping out at the charity. I was chairman of the board of trustees for many years, and then I stepped down from that and just became a trustee. But I'm helping out with the fundraising, and Cara is our kind of fundraising manager. So we're focusing at the moment on the crisis in Malawi, which is related to COVID-19, where what we're doing is building pumps, but repairing pumps, working on sanitation and hygiene, because that's the most important thing in Africa. Africa at the moment seems to be a bit of the lost, kind of forgotten continent in terms of everything that's happened. So we're trying to just bring a bit more awareness to what we're doing in Malawi, which is a continuation of the work we've been doing for 22 years, which is really exciting. So for me, to have this time not acting, but to be able to kind of delve back into the work that we're doing at Pump Aid is really lovely. So it's been great. And I was meant to be having a meeting with Cara this afternoon, but you guys kind of jumped in. And,
you can do it here if you want.
So
but
we'll
it may
have
be
a
a bit...
meeting while you were watching. Yeah. And maybe Cara can give us an update on what we're doing at the moment and how everything is going.
Yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
of course. So firstly, thanks so much for having us. It's great to be here. So yeah, exactly as Ben said. So COVID-19 is obviously affecting all of us, really affecting those over in Malawi. And I think it's really important to emphasize that lots of people there are already kind of living on the edge and facing a lot of challenges with the levels of poverty, really high levels of food insecurity. 50% of the population doesn't have access to clean water, 60% doesn't have access to water and sanitation. And so it's already in those conditions that then COVID-19 has come in on top of all of that. So with our experience and expertise in water, sanitation and hygiene, we felt we were really kind of well placed to do something to help in the response. And the other thing in that context is they don't have adequate health infrastructure. So they've got 27 intensive care unit beds for a population of 18 million. And so the focus is very much on containment and prevention. But as I mentioned, with so many not having access to water and sanitation, it's very hard to promote things like hand washing when there's not, the clean water and soap in which to do that. So we've been supporting with kind of a few prongs to our approach. So firstly is repairing water points. So one thing about Pump Aid that's really, really exciting is we have such a different way of doing things. So very intentionally, it's promoting self-reliance, empowerment, getting people to self-invest in water. And so that has very much continued in our response programs. So we're using our network of entrepreneurs who have the skills, they have the talent to go and repair the pumps. So these are local people who are trained. So they're doing water point repairs. We've already repaired, I think, over 300. And we've identified.
And how many people are in charge of all that type of thing, like the entrepreneurial ship? So I suppose it is that you can give a man a fishing rod, you can give a man a fish type thing, or give him a fishing rod and teach him how to use it. Is it that type of?
Yeah. So, and I think
way?
It's almost, completely that. And I think it's almost another level of that, as it were. So we've got our kind of network of entrepreneurs. So I think there's around 70, and they're all kind of local in their kind of districts and in their areas. And they're part of a kind of training program. So they get technical training, business development training. So they know how to, keep accounts and how to interact with customers and all that sort of thing, as well as marketing support. So we can advertise their services. And it means, people then know all this great work that they can do. And importantly with the pumps, the parts are local. And so it really, because there's a huge problem in Malawi of non-functionality of pumps. And so all of this helps kind of mitigate all of that. So our network of entrepreneurs are currently going out and doing the repairs for water points. We're also doing great work in preschools, so with children under 5. So we're checking that those water points are working. Whereas lots of the primary and secondary schools are closed, lots of the preschools remain open. So their water points will still be kind of actively used. And that is very much encouraged that the community uses those water points as well. Also promoting hand washing, making sure that there's soap, and really importantly that people understand why they're being asked to do this, because I think, for communities, if you go in and just say you need to stand 2 meters apart, you need to wash your hands, it's having that level of understanding why. Because similarly in this context, if someone came to us and said you now need to do all of these things that sound completely bizarre and out of the norm, then you need to have that kind of level of understanding. So doing all of that work. And I think really importantly as well, is clearly there is a concern about COVID-19 in Malawi, but actually a lot of the population are more concerned about food insecurity, because that's a very real risk. Sorry.
No, it's true. 'Cause is that also a thing as well? What's been coming up, I suppose, in lots of fields, but especially in this sector as well, is that because all the focus is not all the focus, but a lot of focus has been on COVID-19, that you're almost forgetting, as you say, about the malnutrition, the food insecurity, and everything else. What is and has been, unfortunately, for many decades, centuries even, a concern.
Yeah, completely. And of course, it's so interlinked. So the kind of water and sanitation and adequate nutrition, if you're, washing kind of food in dirty water, then clearly, if people have access to food. So there is very much a kind of correlation. So as you say, it's really important to also be, making sure that there is enough food and that food security is being kind of looked at as well. And that's where, for us, we've got our kind of emergency response, but clearly with that sustainability element. But we're also thinking slightly longer term. So in Malawi, later in the year, there's what's known as a hunger period. So food insecurity is particularly high. So it's always, lots of people are food insecure, but at that time of the year, it's particularly kind of prevalent. So we're working with farmers to bring them access to irrigation. So if a farmer has irrigation, the possibilities of then what they can grow and is just enormous, and they can grow 2-3 harvests a year. They don't have to be reliant on rainfall, which is very unpredictable. It can be quite sporadic, so one day it can absolutely bucket, and then the next day there's just nothing, and so crops obviously can't flourish in that. So we're working with farmers for access to irrigation and also seed and fertilizer packages. And that's for income and livelihoods for the farmers themselves, because clearly they can sell any surplus, but also ensuring they have enough food and that Malawians also have enough food. So that's the kind of third element to our kind of current work, and that's something that we do in our programs in a time when it's not COVID-19, if that makes sense. So
everything that we're trying to do is why I got involved back in 1998. The whole point of a charity, I think, should be that you ultimately try and put yourself out of business. And my concern was that back in 1998, too many charities seemed to be self-sustaining and trying to keep themselves in a job. And what we're always trying to do is get to a situation where we don't need to be there anymore. And so the idea of building up entrepreneurs, people who can build their own pumps, repair their own pumps, and take care of the issues themselves so we don't have to be there, is absolutely crucial. But in a situation like this with the emergency response, then we're trying to do as much as we can to help out, but also to help other people kind of helping themselves as well. So it's really, really crucial.
Yeah, and of course the other thing is making sure that the water points are functioning and that they're repaired. That is then obviously for the longer term as well. So if those repairs are made, those communities, the children, the farmers have access to water kind of going forward. And as Ben said, we've then got the model, which means that it is completely self-sustaining. So you've got entrepreneurs that can go and fix it. And again, with the kind of self-investment piece, it really then lends itself to a kind of ownership. So it's a completely different dynamic, with a person, being able to be a customer rather than a beneficiary. But as Ben mentioned, kind of in this time, it looks slightly different because we're, responding to COVID-19. But it's, Pump Aid it's really, really kind of innovative and forward thinking in that sense.
Yeah. I've never, to be honest, but I've never actually thought of it like that. Like the best way for a charity, especially one like Pump Aid, is, as you say, you don't want to be there. Do you find as well that with the entrepreneurship, what comes from it, that there is a level of pride from it? People are more likely to succeed in doing it themselves than opposed to almost like, not ego or pride, well, I suppose a pride thing. It's to say instead of getting a handout, right, okay, we've done it now, we're off, we'll be back in 6 months when it needs repairing.
There's a real problem with aid dependency, where if something breaks down like a pump, in the old days, you used to have the name of the charity who built the pump, and the name of the person who'd given the charity the money would be on the side of the pump. So when the pump broke down, the villagers would turn around and say, well, when is John Smith from Derby going to come and fix my pump? Whereas if you've got a local team of mechanics who are building and repairing pumps, then it's you wouldn't, if your telephone had been, donated to you by John Smith from Derby and it broke down, the idea that you then just throw it away or wait for him to come and fix it. I mean, it just, so it's crucial. What we're doing is to try and build up a structure where we aren't needed anymore. And there's so many organizations around the world where you kind of feel that people are just trying to keep themselves in a job. And every day that we're doing this, we're trying to put ourselves out of work. But unfortunately, the job is so big that we have to keep doing it. And we've changed our thinking over the 22 years that I've been involved. We've changed the way that we've done things, and we've developed. And now I really do think we're kind of at the cutting edge of what the development world is doing. And we're having to drag people along with us, because they're saying, well, we want to pay for a pump to be built and we'll want our name on it. And we're going, well, no, that's not how it works anymore. We much prefer you to pay for someone to be trained on how to build and repair pumps, because there are thousands, I think in Malawi, the functionality of pumps is 45% of pumps in Malawi are working. And yet the way that it's measured, if there's a pump there, they must be providing water, but they're broken. 55% of pumps in Malawi at the moment are broken. So if who's fixing them? So if we're training Malawians to fix their own pumps, then that's part of the solution. And we've got an amazing staff of Malawians. None of our UK staff work in Malawi. All of our staff are Malawian. And it's just we're really proud of the work that we're doing. And but at the moment, it's a really crucial, really small things can make a massive difference at the moment. So it's great to be involved in it, and hopefully see some kind of change coming.
I suppose I find that from a lot of people I've met from Africa in general, not that I've been unfortunate, I haven't been there, but people I've met from there, they're very proud of what country or part of the country they're from. So to give someone that pride in providing for their community is all the more empowering, surely.
Well, it's absolutely crucial that people have ownership of their own solutions, because they know better than anybody else what they need and how to deliver it. But in so many circumstances, they don't have the wherewithal with which to do it. So what we're trying to do is help with training, with access to some microfinancing, that kind of thing. So ultimately, so people can take over and do everything themselves, rather than being dependent on someone from Europe or from the UK to come in and do it for them. They don't want us to be there doing this. I mean, people want to be able to kind of just get on and do it for themselves. And what we're trying to do is facilitate that to happen, so that eventually we can just walk away and say we're not needed anymore. That's the most crucial thing.
And also, if there's someone from the country itself fixing them, it can be fixed a lot quicker.
Exactly. Absolutely. You're not waiting for someone to, a lot of pumps are made in India, brought over from India, but they might break down on the journey over. If you've got someone in country, that the people in the village or the people in the household will have a text number or a phone number, or they'll know who to go to, say, this pump is broken. The longer the pump stays broken, the more danger there is of infection, because however long that pump has been there, providing access to clean, safe water, all the good that has done in the past 6 months, a year, will be undone in days if people start drinking infected water again. So it's absolutely crucial that it's repaired as quickly as possible. And if you've got local teams of area mechanics who are easily available to do that, then that really does make a huge difference.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think the other thing is deliberately using very simple technologies. So there's some pumps which become non-functioning and have, extremely complex structures with loads of parts, and as Ben mentioned, maybe made in India, and in places where it's very hard to then source that part if someone kind of urgently needs a repair. So we deliberately have, simple technologies, easy to use and easy to repair. So that also helps with yes, that whole kind of process.
Yeah, brilliant.
Amazing.
Was there any reason in particular why Malawi in terms of that part of Africa?
We started off in Zimbabwe because, like I said before, I was filming over there and I met these 3 teachers, and that was the centre of the operations. But things got quite difficult in Zimbabwe around, as people know what was going on there. So we had to move. At one point, we had to move into Malawi and start working there because it was made impossible for any Western organisations to be working in Zimbabwe. And while we were working there, it seemed to be a better fit for what we were doing. And then the organisation that we built up in Zimbabwe was passed on to some of the people who'd founded it over there. So they took that on, and we concentrated on building up Pompeii to work in Malawi. And it's a much easier environment in which to work. And we've been able to kind of develop some of these new approaches far easier in Malawi than we had before. So that's really kind of the history of it. And the work that we've done in Liberia was a short-term project working with veterans of the war over there. So that was a kind of a one-off thing. And the environment wasn't as conducive to some of the technologies we were using. But Malawi works perfectly for what we were doing. And we've just kind of moved into Malawi rather than kind of straddling 2 countries with Zimbabwe and Malawi.
No, fantastic. Because I was surprised when, as James said, hopefully it'll continue. Because I didn't realise about this, Ben, until we started. I remember we were just speaking about it again, one of these conversations you had before you go on stage, and you were in the first scene and I wasn't. And I remember just sitting there going, "Where did that come from?" And then I get my call to go to stage. But it's incredible though to listen to it though, and especially the good what's being done with it. So yeah, just well done, guys, for doing this. And so we just wanted to be able to hopefully bring us to the attention of people watching, because there's, as we all know, there's a lot of topics in the news and everything right now, and you do find to a point, I suppose, that Africa is almost, as you say, the forgotten continent in this whole thing. So hopefully this will bring it to a bit more of people's mindsets as well.
Yeah. Thank you for that. And I'm just the big advert thing is www.pumpaid.org. If you want any more information, I know Cara's got to go off to another presentation, so we shouldn't keep her for any longer than she needs to be here. But thank you, Cara, so much for kind of putting some time aside to help explain to us what's going on, because that's really helpful for us.
Of course, thank you so much again for having us and for talking about it. And I was going to do the same plug with the website, so thank you for that, Ben.
Just say it again, the website.
www.pumpaid.org, and there's a section on there specifically about all the response work. So definitely check it out.
pumpaid.org.
Cool, thanks, Cara.
Bye. Take care.
No, that was great. As I say, it was just great to actually see the ins and outs of it as well. Because I know that I remember speaking to you about it, and then just reading up more about it. Because you say there's lots of different organisations what provide that type of service to begin with in terms of getting the water out there. But as you say, I think it's just a bigger message that you don't want to be there longer than you have to be if they can do it themselves.
And we I think it's something like 11 pence of every pound that we get goes on administration, which is a lot of organisations. And when I started off in 1998, the reason that I wanted to kind of start something or help start something up myself is there was a statistic that one of the big organisations in the world was spending 75 pence of every pound on administration, and I thought that was insane. So a very small amount of the money was going to the actual charity, the work that they were doing. So with us, we've always been really keen to keep that figure as low as possible. So I'm really proud that we've managed to do that over 22 years, keep it right down. So it's only a really small fraction of every pound that kind of goes to the organisation is spent on admin. As you can see at the moment, it's probably even less because everybody's working from home, which
fantastic. Yeah, as I say, so we did a thing on our Instagram or on my Instagram earlier this week, because we spoke at the end of last week's show about maybe sponsoring James to cut his beard, and then we couldn't think of one specific charity. So
it was more of a reason that we said how every charity at the moment needs some donations.
Yeah,
They're all
absolutely.
struggling throughout the world, whether they're big charities or small charities. So if anyone can spare anything, give to a charity that's near your Dittam, or one that they just heard about. Hopefully, like Pump Aid as well. So if anybody can, that would be fantastic.
Brilliant, thank you. Absolutely. And you've still got a moustache to shave off, so maybe
we could do another one, couldn't we?
donate aside to donate. Yeah. Yeah, because it was. I think it was. I think, as James said, there's a lot of charities what are struggling out there, and it's not saying do this one, do that one.
No.
But as I say, if we can just bring the Pump Aid situation into people's mindset, then that's great as well. And hopefully they've enjoyed listening to everything what yourself and Cara was talking about right then.
I hope so too. Yeah, it's and even just to kind of go and find out what's happening with this whole situation in different parts of the world, because every part of the world is different, and in some parts of the world, like Africa, actually the thing that people are most fearful of is hunger. Still, regardless of COVID-19, people are more scared of how it's going to affect them being able to get food on the table day to day. So we kind of feel, in lockdown here, we feel pretty kind of bereft, but it's nothing compared to what's going on in other places of the world.
Cool. Thanks for thanks for talking about that. I thought we should kind of move almost back to where we were, if that's okay. Before,
absolutely. Sorry for that interruption.
No. It was a good, good timing, really.
Yeah.
Well, it works as a good segue, actually. So you said that you first came involved with all that situation going out there, and first in Zimbabwe when you were working on Soldier, which was possibly the biggest BBC. Was it BBC? ITV. ITV. Probably one of the biggest TV shows of the decade.
Yeah,
and
we had 17 million viewers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's extraordinary.
Was that your first time working abroad for quite an extended period?
Yeah, we were. I mean, I'm just so lucky with it, because when I was almost, I think I'd been out of drama school for about 6 months when I got cast in it. And the first month of filming was in Cyprus. And when I arrived on set, I had hair as long as you do, James. And they were all looking at me saying, this is the new platoon commander. And then they cut off all my hair. And I'm sure there were a lot of photographs. I had very big hair back then, and it's probably as big as it is now. But we were in Cyprus for a month, and then we were in Germany for a month. And then the next year we did Australia for a month, South Africa for a month. And then the following year we were in Zimbabwe for a month. And it was just a dream come true. I never dreamt that I would be able to go to Australia. I'd never been I remember getting a coach trip from London to Edinburgh, thinking that was the furthest I'd ever go, because it took about 6 hours. And then when I was in youth theatre, and I did a play in, where was it? It was in Huron, North Dakota, many years ago. And I took a bus up to Chicago, and then I got a Greyhound from Chicago to San Francisco, which took 3 days. And my whole sense of distance and travel was completely blown out of the water. And then I got this flight from the UK to Australia, which took about 28 hours, I think, something like that. It blew my mind. And I remember being on the plane and arriving at the coast of Australia, thinking, oh, great, we'll be in Sydney soon. And it was another, I can't remember many hours it was, but it was another amazing amount of hours to kind of go before. I was like, this is just madness. So, it was so lucky. And all the places I've visited in the world have been because of this amazing job acting that I've done. Cambodia, Zimbabwe, India. I've done 2 movies in India. And
I was going to bring up the cricketing movie in India,
Lagaan.
which sounded like absolute amazing time.
It was a dream come true. Someone asked me to do a movie about cricket, and cricket is one of my favourite sports. And they were looking for English actors who could play cricket to do this Bollywood movie about a cricket match between the English army and an Indian village in 1893, I think it was. And we went over for 3 months in the desert, the kind of Gujarat and Bhuj. And this film, just from out of nowhere, I think my agent said that don't want to do that. They're doing a musical version of, something on tour, go and do that. I said, no, I want to do this film in India. It's India and it's about cricket. Why wouldn't I want to do that? And I was out there for 3 months and it was nominated for an Oscar for Best Foreign Film. So because of that, I ended up living in Los Angeles. And then I went back 4 years later and did another movie with the same actor, this wonderful man called Amir Khan, who's it's like George Clooney in India. I mean, he's the biggest star in India. And he's a wonderful man because he's got a real social conscience as well. He's just an extraordinary man. And we did these 2 movies together, Lagaan, and then a film called The Rising, The Ballad of Mangal Pandey with Toby Stevens about the Indian Mutiny. And again, 6 months, I think I was there for the second movie, and it was a dream come true to be in India, filming all over the place in Rajasthan, in Gujarat, in Mumbai, in Delhi. It's just an absolute dream come true. And that's what acting has kind of given me, is just visiting all these most extraordinary. And when you film in a country like that, you get to see below the surface that a tourist might see, because you're there for so long. You're working with an Indian crew or an African crew or Cambodian crew, and you get taken to places that you would never believe possible. And it's just, I'm so lucky to have done all of those things. It's been a dream come true. It really has.
And it's amazing as well, the people you meet on these tours as well, or like when you're working away, like people who work on stage doors and things like that.
Yeah, it's a weird thing with actors, isn't it? We might not work together for very long periods, but we have to get to know each other really well, really quickly, because you're up on stage in front of 700-800 people. You've got to trust that the guy opposite you or the girl opposite you is going to say their lines and move on stage when they're meant to. And there's this extraordinary bond of trust that builds up really, really quickly. And I think you go through a kind of, you get to know people very quickly and in a depth that it might take other people months or years to even get to. You get to know that you're sharing a dressing room with someone. Within 2 or 3 weeks, you know their whole life story back to front and inside out. And there's something really rewarding about that. And so you form these relationships that happen very quickly, but then, 2 or 3 years later, you can do something like this. And it's kind of like you haven't been you haven't been working together for because you still have all of those things in common. So it creates very special bonds, which I'm sure you guys know far better than me, having worked on a big film series like you did. You have those bonds with people which will never be broken, in the way that, when I did Lagaan, which was 2000, we did it, I'm still, in contact with the majority of people that were on that film, because it was such a special one-off experience that will never be repeated again. So yeah, it's life-changing.
And so Lagaan was based on a true story, was that?
No.
No. I was trying to work out who would win against the British Army playing cricket.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fabulous. I mean, it's great fun. The music is wonderful. It's very heightened, the whole kind of tone of it. But it's I think it's been voted one of the top 10 sports films. It's one of the people's favourite films about cricket, and it took us 30 days to film the cricket match, and it was 44 degrees centigrade in the desert. I remember we played a match between the English kind of actors and extras and the Indian actors and extras and crew. We played like a 2020 game one Sunday in the desert. And I remember opening the bowling, and by the end of the over, I was soaking wet. And I walked down to kind of third man and got a bucket of water, poured it over myself. And by the time I walked back to bowl the second over, I was bone dry before starting off again. Yeah, it was extraordinary. But no, it's a made-up story about, I think the English commander says, if you can beat us at cricket, we'll let you off tax. You'll never have to pay tax again. But if you lose the game, we'll charge you triple tax, which was Tinguna Lagaan, Vasal Karagai, Tinguna Lagai. And so the idea was that the village, in a moment of madness, said, right, we'll take you on. They'd never played cricket before, but they learned how to play cricket. And of course, because it was an Indian film, I won't give the game away, but you can guess who might have won. But it's great fun. And I think it's the only match I've ever played where I played in front of 10,000 people, because we had 10,000 extras one day who came from all over. We turned up at 3:00 in the morning, and we were waiting at this cricket pavilion that they built in the middle of the desert. And as the sun came up over the horizon, people started, you could see the outline of people walking towards the cricket ground over the desert. And there were people on horseback, on carts, a couple of buses turned up, but people were walking. We had 10,000 extras for one day of filming. We had 5 cameras, and all the crowd shots were done on that day. And it was breathtaking. And at one point, because the heat was so bad, Amir, to calm everybody down, rode out on a white horse and sang one of his many hit numbers, because all the Bollywood films have big kind of, the music is fantastic. So he sang one of his most well-known hit songs on horseback to this kind of assembled crowd of 10,000 people, with people rushing towards him and bodyguards having to kind of beat people back. I mean, we saw the scenes were just extraordinary, but the most magical experience, and the actors and the crew that we met over there were brilliant. And they, at that time, they kind of really reaffirmed my belief in what I was doing, because sometimes when you come out of a big TV series and you kind of think, oh my God, I've kind of done everything I wanted to do when I went to drama school. Working with these guys, reaffirmed my belief in the joy of art and creation, and also that connection with people and what art can do for people. So it was a magical time, and I'll never forget any of those people that I worked with, because they were really, really special people, both on the English side and on the Indian side, the cast and crew, and the love and the care and attention and the passion that they put into it really kind of reaffirmed my belief in what we do, which was just, it was a joy. It really was a privilege.
Yeah. I think that's something which every so often, especially as I'm going to speak obviously as an actor, but there's a job every so often that comes along when you literally go to bed every night with you feel so accomplished.
Yeah.
Which it doesn't matter what you could be being paid peanuts, or you could be paid quite a nice check. If you're not going to bed feeling like you're on the right part of your life at that precise moment.
Yeah.
If you know what I mean, it doesn't, the money doesn't seem to mean as much, but it sounds like when you're doing that movie, not only were you getting to play cricket quite a lot.
Well, yeah, exactly. Which was
you also
great.
had that as well. Yeah, exactly.
But it also, I just feel, I don't know about you guys, but I just feel so lucky that I found something that I was really passionate about. And funnily enough, that whole thing with Pompeii grew out of me feeling slightly disillusioned with this job of acting, because I came out of a big TV series, and everything that I could ever imagine that I would want to have achieved was done. And I felt really empty about it, because I'd lost, I think, the passion. And that's why the Pompeii kind of, I think, came in and replaced that, because I was very passionate about that. But then going out, and that was 1998, and then going out to do Lagaan in 2000, rekindled my passion for what we do as actors. And that was so I feel really, really privileged to have discovered something that I can be passionate about for the rest of my life. And then as that journey went on, I then discovered something else, which was the Pompeii side of things. But the passion in acting got rekindled along the way as well. And maybe one spurred the other on. By kind of getting involved in Pompeii, it made me realize what was important. So I chose a project in Lagaan that I might not necessarily have chosen a few years earlier, because I think I was offered a lot of money to do a pantomime, and I turned it down. And because of that, I was available to do Lagaan. So maybe coming out of Soldier, getting involved in Pompeii, then led on to me being available to do Lagaan, which then rekindled my passion for acting. So it's kind of swings and roundabouts. It's amazing how life works out like that. I remember Ollie telling me about you when we were in Leeds, saying this is really weird because this is where we first went for our first audition for
that's right.
Harry Potter.
That's right. So I remember on one of the days we were there, I actually went to the hotel where we went for our first ever audition. And I remember walking into reception. I said to the woman who was behind the desk, "Do you mind if I just have a look around?" And she looked like I was mad. She was like, do what you want. Oh. Just shrugged her shoulders and turned away. So so we went. I went to the conferencing or the banqueting area where we were basically everyone was penned into, and then managed to find. It's amazing how, even though so many years ago, at the age of 14, how things are. I've got a photographic memory of that exact place where it was, to the point where I found the room where there was. We always say it's like a sliding doors moment. We had a door on the left or a door on the right to go to. And just happens we stayed and went on the door on the left, which is where the head casting director was.
Yeah.
Dawn the Right was her assistant. Who knows what would have happened if we'd have seen the assistant, you know? So it was a big thing. But yeah, just seeing stuff like that was amazing. Yeah, it's not exactly a million miles up the road away from where I live, but I'd never have any reason to go in there had I not been there for the week or whatever.
Yeah, I had that last year. We played the Northcote Theatre in Exeter, which is where I'm originally from, Devon. And my first job out of school, I went and worked in the bar there and did some stage management. But I'd never worked there as a professional actor. And going back there last year was really there. Was something quite moving about it, because that was the first place I ever went. Well, not the first place I went to see theatre, because I think I went to see Panto in Torquay. But it was the first place I saw, drama and theatre, and to be then working on that stage. And the really lovely thing was, it was such a wonderful experience because everyone there was so lovely, even though I didn't know anybody who had been there when I was there in 1985 to 87. And like you say, these little moments, the little signposts through your life, they can be really important, because they do feel like if you turn left at that point or turn right at that point, who knows what would have happened. I'm sure something else wonderful would have happened, but it's yeah. And I think that there's a wonderful line in I think it's in King Lear, where he says the readiness is all. So it's all about being ready for those moments in your life where something life-changing could happen, so that your eyes are open and you see it, you see the opportunity. And I really believe in that. And so things for me like Soldier, like Lagaan, getting involved in Pump Aid, and doing these plays, these tours where we met, those little moments have been so important. And now I feel this time, these 3 months is one of those moments. I don't know what's going to change because of it, but it feels like a really special time, whether it's a negative or a positive. But for us, it feels very positive. As we said right at the beginning of the podcast, for our family, for me and Amy and Orla, to all be together for these 3 months. A lot of things have happened in these 3 months which are really special and have been real kind of moments of growth for all of us, and learning, and which would never have happened if we were constantly on that merry-go-round of kind of working. So we've taken some time out. It's been lovely. It's been a real breath of fresh air. It's been really nice.
Another quick question I'd like to just ask in regards to the method and everything which you use for yourself. When it comes to learning lines, I'm normally asked by some people, how do you learn your lines? So I'm always intrigued how other actors go about their process in learning the lines. So what would yours be?
I read the script again and 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 again. And so it starts to kind of seed into my head. And then I then tend to wait until I've rehearsed the scene for the first time. So I've got a picture of how the scene looks, because that tends to help me then. I know I'll break down the scene. So I'll go through the script and I'll break it down, so I know all the intentions are and what I'm saying, why I'm saying it. But it's not until I've actually rehearsed it for the first time with the other actor that I'll be opposite and see what he or she's doing, that then that night I try and go back and learn that scene or any of the scenes that I've learnt on that day. So then a lot of it would have seeped in anyway, but then I literally do, I kind of go like, and then I go back, and if I've got one line wrong, I'll go right back to the beginning, and I do it by rote and do it by rote, and it's literally like that. But I think it's all the process that leads up to that point, which is the reading it again and again and trying to do it, get a really clear understanding of what the scene is about, and then standing it up on its feet so it moves around. Then I feel like I've got a much more three-dimensional idea of what it's about, and then I learn it. So that for me, I find it difficult to learn something before I've actually rehearsed it for the first time. But then, of course, with television and film, it's different because, as you guys know, sometimes you might not get a rehearsal. So you have to know the lines inside out and back to front before you step on set. And it's only then that you get to rehearse it. So then it's a very different feeling. I try and learn it, break it all down so I know what I'm doing. And you know it inside out, back to front. And then when you rehearse it on the set, then that's when you have to start listening, and actually your words become less important than the words that people are saying to you, because I think Dirk Bogarde said that the big realization in his life is when Montgomery told Clift, said that they met up in a canteen somewhere, and Bogarde said to him, what scenes did you do this morning? How did they go? And he said, it was good. I did a lot of good listening. And Dirk Bogarde went, oh my God, that's the key to it. It's not about what I'm doing. It's about me reacting to what the other person's doing. So for me, the listening is so important, because if I know all of my lines and then I'm listening to James or Ollie saying lines to me, I can then react to them with the lines I've been given, rather than them saying a line and then me saying my line, they say a line, me say a line. So it's really important about that combination of it all the hard work having been done and then listening to what people are saying to you. So it's all of those things, I think.
And do you find it helps that if you know, as you said, almost their lines as well? So if they do mess up, you can bring them round.
Yeah, I mean,
or is it a case of it's not your job on stage to save them?
I take responsibility. I think I should know. I mean, I think if you know the scene well enough, you hopefully you won't need to ever do that. But there've been many occasions where that has. With when you joined us, you had so little rehearsal, and Deborah, who was also joining at the same time, taking over from the two actors who were leaving, you hadn't had as much rehearsal as you would expect to have. So the first few nights, it would have been not surprising if you didn't know some of the lines or you were thrown. So and I would think by that point I've been doing it for say 12 weeks. And if we were doing a scene together, I'd think I'll just make sure that I'm on my tiptoes, just in case Ollie gives me a wrong cue, and I need to take the scene back around so we don't lose place. So, and I don't mind doing that, but it's a difficult thing sometimes. And it goes back to what we were saying earlier about trust. If you trust the people you're on stage with, then moments like that are no problem at all, because somebody will know when to come in and when to help out. All you need to do is throw a little look, or you'll just know, and you all trust each other. And it's not about someone saying, I know your lines better than you do. It's about someone saying, this could happen to any of us at any moment. I'm going to help you out here because I sense that you're in trouble. I'll help you. Whereas other times, an actor might say, I'm making a different choice at this point. I'm going to put a pause in here. And you've got to realize that's what's happening, because they might do something completely different. And if you're not thinking, and it might come up in the moment that they just go, I've had this realization, and they do something completely different. You have to be nimble enough to react to what they're doing, rather than saying, you've never done that before, I'm going to say my line the way I always say it, which then makes for really stilted theatre and really stilted performances. It's like, if you're on a film, you might do one scene or a take 10 times, and every time you do it, it might be slightly different, but you know that it's going to be slightly different, and you've got a chance to do it again. In live theatre, you never know what's going to happen, and we may do a scene together where you've decided you're going to do something completely different, and I should be good enough to react to that and go along with you on that journey. And if I'm not, then I think that's really selfish on my part. So
I know a show I did about 18 months ago or so, I think it was like the fourth week, I was doing a scene with another guy, and Steve, and he ended up, again, presenting a line a different way. And so it was exciting for me as well, because it was a new way of doing it. And when we got off stage, we were both kind of smiling, and he said it just happened. He wasn't going for that. It just happened like that. Yeah. In an organic sense. And then we really enjoyed it as well. And then the director just happened to be in the house that night, and he said to himself, that was really good. What happened there?
Brilliant.
But I know that one of the guys in that crew, he gave everyone a little card, and it actually said on it, something basically along the lines of, it's amazing what can be achieved if you're not bothered about getting the acclaim for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, brilliant. There's a lovely story that Laurence Olivier, when he did Othello, and there was one night that it was extraordinary, and everyone was aghast. And they went round to his dressing room afterwards, and he wouldn't let anybody in. And eventually they got in and he was in tears. And they said, but it was amazing tonight. And he said, I know, but I don't know why.
Yeah.
And that's where the whole Lee Strasberg school of method acting came in, because what Strasberg said was, I want to teach you a method where when something like that happens, so when that guy said that line to you in a different way, because you know you've got to do that show another 3 or 4 weeks in a row, you can pinpoint why that happened, and then you can replicate it the next night, because you might come to that moment tomorrow night and the feeling is gone, and he might not want to do it again. So the whole method was about trying to be able to, like you said earlier on about, when you're doing a long monologue, are you aware of the audience reaction? And there is a part of you that's aware of what's happening on stage at the same time as you're absolutely in the moment. There is this kind of actor's sense of something happened there, and I'm going to think about that when I get to the dressing room and try and work out why. So, and it worked really well, and then I can repeat it tomorrow, because the lead up to that thing might not happen again. So I need to understand why it happened. And Strasberg always used that Olivier thing as an illustration why he was trying to, if you're going to do a show 200 times, it's impossible to be absolutely on it 200 times. So what can you do to try and ensure that you're as on it as possible every single time?
Yeah, no, amazing. It really is fascinating, I think, Ben, when you hear about the different, I suppose, moments, what goes through one's head when you're doing it. As you say, a lot of it is in the subconscious, which is
absolutely.
I suppose what anyone could put into anything, be it you're giving a presentation at work, be it you're doing whatever like that. As long as you know your stuff, it just seems to make it flow a lot easier. I mean, I cheated in our play. I had a notebook the whole time, but
you did, yeah.
Benefits of playing a policeman.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like driving a car, isn't it? You're driving on the road and suddenly, or on a motorway, and you suddenly think, where did that last half hour go? You're just so used to the way that you drive the car, you're not thinking about driving it anymore. And with some plays, when you've done it 200 times, it is a bit like driving a car. You've done it so many times, you don't think about it anymore. And that's dangerous, because you need to remember this is the first time that you've told this story, so start all over again. But somehow remember all the 200 performances you've done up to that point and everything that you've learned, and bring that with you at the same time. I don't know how you do that, but there's a great Mike Brearley called what's it called? The Mike Brearley book it's not like In the Bubble or In the Moment, and on form, and it talks about professional sportsmen, about actors, about musicians, and about how that moment, and it happens very, very rarely, where you're so in the zone, and what does it need to get to that moment? And he says it's a combination of that lovely phrase, the more I practice, the luckier I get, and at the same time being open to anything happening. So it's practice and being open, and it's that book was a real inspiration to me.
So every week, Ben, James asks the same 3 questions, and every week we always say we'll give the guest a heads up, and every week we don't. So James, take it away.
Okay.
Well, it's 4 questions.
Oh,
actually.
yeah. See how much I've been paying attention over the last
you've been really
9
paying
episodes.
So the first one, Ben, what is your favourite song?
The first one that came to my mind there would be, oh my God, it's a Beatles song. In My Life? No. Oh God, no. All right, it'll be David Sylvian, Orpheus.
Okay. What is your favourite film?
Lawrence of Arabia, because it was the film that made me want to be an actor. Peter O'Toole.
Nice.
Classic.
Any reason why they wanted you to be an actor?
There was one moment in it that I just felt he wasn't acting it. Well, there were lots of moments I felt that. There was one moment where I think, as a young man, it felt like he was looking out of the television screen into my eyes and challenging me, or at least saying, "You can do this as well." There was just a moment, and I just went, "Wow!" There was something in what he did that was just transcendent. It was extraordinary, and maybe the whole story as well. Just the romance of what happened with Lawrence of Arabia. Coming from a military background and my family, it just it really hit home. Yeah.
Yeah. What is your favourite food, apart from burnt scones?
At the moment, embarrassing to say, toast and Marmite. I love it.
Ooh, controversial.
Marmite, yes, yes.
Lots of butter. Yeah.
Final one. Any favourite film or TV quote that either you could have said or one of your favourites that you've heard being mentioned on either film or TV, which you yourself use time and time again?
Probably the more I practice, the luckier I get. Been probably said by several people, but I think it was a golfer who said it first.
It was Gary Player who said it originally.
Yeah. But that's a quote that always comes back to me. And a day in the life, Beatles. A day in the life.
A day in the life by the Beatles
from Sgt. Pepper's, right?
Yeah, that's right. No, yes, yeah. Is it? So it is Sgt. Pepper's, isn't it? Yeah, it's the last song.
Yeah.
Day in the life, extraordinary.
Well, as I say, once again, Ben, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your lovely stories of life on the road and all these memorable experiences you've had over the years, and especially all the great work you've been putting into with Pump Aid and informing us all about that.
Yeah, all the other guys do it. I don't have anything to do with it anymore. They do all the hard work. I don't do anything hard work.
But you did
check out the Pump Aid is. And to check out Pump Aid is pumpaid.org.
That's right, yeah. pumpaid.org.
Cool. And I'll make sure that for everyone listening, in the comment, in the about this episode, I'll make sure that the link is on there as well. So if anyone's watching or listening, you can click on it straight from wherever you're getting your podcast from today.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys.
Thanks very much, Ben.
Cool. Cheers, Ben.
Bye.
So thanks so much there from Ben for giving us a big insight. And a huge thank you as well to Cara, who popped on the call as well to give us a bit more of an in-depth knowledge on Pump Aid, which I thought was really, really interesting.
Very much. I loved as well the fact that he said the main thing they want to do is get them self-sufficient in all the communities to actually produce fresh water. Because while I was listening to Ben there, I was actually drinking water, and I was just thinking how easy it was to fill that up from the tap. However, imagine if you have to walk like tens of miles to get to a pump which no longer works. How soul destroying that would be, and obviously very dangerous in the heat as well. So hopefully those guys can continue to do such great work, and hopefully one day they won't be needed anymore.
Yes, I completely concur with your sentiments there.
Thank you very much.
Sounded very formal, didn't it?
It did,
Sound
yeah.
like a politician.
Also, because we're such a formal podcast as well, I just want to apologise halfway through that I think you could hear my dog going wild in the garden, howling.
Is he still barking on these podcasts?
Yeah, well, old Tonto, he's scared of a few songs. So if you play a song on a radio, he starts howling.
Yes, he does this one. So there's the longest running radio show is called The Archers, and it's about a community in a farming community. Anyway, they've got a very recognisable theme tune. So anyone in the United Kingdom and probably a bit further afield will know The Archers theme tune. Even if you don't watch The Archers, you'll know what it is. Anyway, when this is played on the radio, Tonto howls.
Yeah, he doesn't like it, does he?
Very, very good. So maybe next week's episode we'll have a video of him. He can be our jingle for Did You Know? Did you know?
He's been keeping cool in the kitchen floor at the moment, so he's doing okay.
Good. Well, anyway, talking about keeping cool, everybody out there listening, watching, keep cool. Thank you for supporting the podcast as well and listening into our ramblings and Ben's information as well. His really cool insight, I thought, into the whole acting side of things. He's definitely a chap who got me through the first time on stage, which was invaluable, really. So a big, once again, thank you to Ben, and thank you to everybody out there who's been listening. So we will see you next week.
Yes, and hang on. I know we never get political because that's one of our things that we
no politics.
Let me say something though. There's still meant to be a pandemic on, so if you can stay separated, please do so. Because I was
Yes.
speaking to a friend of mine who works in a hospital, and she was telling me about all the horrible things that this pandemic has caused. So I think if everyone can still continue to do what they can, then please do.
Yes. Find a
Is that
face
poli-
mask, stuff
I
like
wouldn't
that.
say that's not political, is it?
Well, it's bordering. You're going to get some people who are going to criticise that, but let's face it,
Oh,
these
no, it's not
people
meant to be. But
criticise anything.
I just want people to be happy and safe. That is all. Anyway, on that note, thank you very much for joining us. I'm James Phelps, aka Ned Flanders, aka the Sundance Kid, aka someone who was in the Eagles.
And I'm
this
Oliver
is
Phelps,
Oliver,
aka
who wants to
your
be in Pearl
dream
Jam.
boat. Right, okay, yeah, I've got my Pearl Jam shirt on, actually. I haven't worn that for a while. Anyway,
Such a
stay safe,
dream.
everybody. We will see you next week.